Definitely. And can everybody hear me okay? I mean, I guess not everybody has to answer. I believe we're good to go. Do you know how many people we're expecting today?
Well, we have probably about 40 that signed up, but they come in at their leisure, or they'll watch it on YouTube later.
Okay, that's fine. And just as a reminder, again, I see one of them just left. We're going to be the only ones doing any recording or note-taking with an AI of this meeting. So again, if you have an AI note-taker, please have them leave this meeting now if you're here. Okay. I think the number's sitting around 13. So as long as nobody has any complaints, I think we're going to get into the meeting. So welcome to our July office hours for PromoStandards. I appreciate seeing some returning faces from last month. We have pretty decent list of topics here, not quite as long as last time, so we should be able to get through everything in a pretty timely manner here. We have a few volunteers joining us, which I'm going to be introducing. First up is Mike, if you'd like to say anything.
Hi, I'm Mike Napick. I'm on the board for PromoStandards, and my day job, I work at Sanmar.
Next is Mehmet, which is our BP rep.
Hello.
Hi.
I am a part of Best Practices Committee, and I work at Web Services Pros as the CTO.
And last but certainly not least, we have Dustin Phillip here, who is another one of our standards reps.
Yep, how's it going? Dustin Phillip, on the Standards Committee, Integrations Manager with SNS Activewear.
Great. And I know I was kind of introduced earlier, but I am on the marketing and events team here with PromoStandards, and my day job is I am a small business e-commerce owner. So appreciate everybody joining us today, and I guess we're going to jump right in to the questions. We're going to start out with API, and we were receiving some questions on what the current status is of APIs, as well as what we have, that we're working on with API development. So if anybody would like to take over on that, or has any specific questions.
Yeah, I would just say the website's a good resource for that. Under the services, shows all of the endpoints that are in production, all services that are in production with our REST-based, our SOAP-based services. You got inventory, invoice media, OSN, order status, product compliance, product data, PPC, and purchase order. There are some new services soon to be released. We are working on getting those added to the website. That includes remittance, company data, and OSN. I believe that's 2.1. And those are the services that we discussed at the last Tech Summit.
Mm-hmm.
We're also working on a REST-based API. We're starting with product data, PPC, and working our way through the services. We're also working on webhooks to support the transfer of data, both the SOAP-based and the upcoming REST-based.
Great. And do we have a place where people can kind of view an overview, a getting started setup guide, or is that something that we should, look into creating in the future? Because I know we have a getting started page on our website generally.
I believe it's mainly just a video. I don't think we have a document.
Yeah, it's a decently long video. It's got a lot of timestamps, but definitely I think it would be something we can look into to kind of make a startup guide. I only worry that, people's individual systems may be too specific to make a great or in-depth guide that'll be accurate to your system. But yeah, it's definitely something we could look into doing. Also,
Hey,
I
Alex,
think,
just along those lines, like the video is a great place to start, and then, on the website and looking at the resources there. So along with the kind of the documentation that's put together by the standards committee that Dustin's on, the best practices committee that Mehmet represents, like they talk about not just the technical requirements, but like best practices on how to implement. And then really, if you're getting started, you need to identify like who do you want to integrate with, and then use the website as a resource to find out who the contacts are and reach out to them and start engaging in a conversation. So if you're a distributor and you want to integrate with, you want to go down the PromoStandards path, and Sanmar is a company that you're interested in, and look for our contacts there. We have a team who will help you get through it. We're not the only ones, but it really, the piece to remember with these is it's not just you go do some work. You got to have a conversation with who you want to do the integrations with, collaborate, make sure the testing's going right, the data's coming out. So it's a guide, but it's not plug and play from one to the other without having a conversation first.
Great. We had a question about customization specifically for when stuff is being sent in a different format, how best to handle that on the supplier side. So let's see. So when people are working with a supplier who is sending data in, getting that into the new format, or if you can even convert it to the correct format.
Maybe I'll try that. I would suggest, like, if a supplier's sending data that doesn't match the specs of what the integration is, then I think you have to ask yourself the question of, like, what do you want to do with that data? That may require work on your side. It may require you to reach out to the supplier to ask why they're sending data in a format that is, or either a format or the actual content of the data that doesn't match the specs for the integration. I'm sure there are suppliers who are trying to send data. They're just trying to figure out where best to fit in optional fields. But again, that's why you have that conversation with the supplier to understand how their particular implementation works, especially when you get out of the required fields or enumerated fields. You just want to understand what that data is and how they're expecting you to use it.
Right.
Sorry, Mehmet posted the best practices. Like a good place to go is look at best practices. One of the next steps we're working towards is, we'll call it self-attestation for like how closely as a supplier do you follow the standards for required and best practices. So not just the requirements, but the way the best practices committee is suggesting the implementations work. That's a work in progress right now. So.
Great. Did anybody else have anything to add? Okay. We had one last on APIs. It was, what does a common SKU mean in the context of integrations?
So I've heard this. Someone who's not familiar with the industry, they hear the word common SKU, and many of us think of the service provider common SKU. The other way to think of it is maybe like a GTIN, something that's going to be the same or should be the same between suppliers for the same product. But generally, in this context of PromoStandards, I think it's referring to the company, the third-party service common SKU. There's a lot of distributor tool, a lot of integrations with the different companies in this space.
Great. We mentioned the startup guide and some of the video resources. We did have a few questions about basic steps getting started with integrations. Is that something where we can we can provide more of those startup guides and resources, maybe alongside the recording of this meeting going forward? Because I'm sure that's something that we've covered decently often.
Yeah, I think it's, getting familiar with the spec, getting familiar with SOAP XML, and then reviewing any of the videos, but a good resource is the website. Like Mike mentioned, like find out who you want to integrate with, find out everything's published on the site as far as the services they provide, ways to get credentials. You can do that all from the PromoStandards website. And a good tool there is the validator. Once you have access, you can use the validator on the PromoStandards website to call those services without doing any real coding to send those requests. So I think that's a good place to start.
That kind of ties into to another question we had on here. People were asking if there was any way we could do or if they could do a sandbox or kind of demo environment to try that out and see what issues they ran into, before integrating, just to see if that was going to that system's going to work well for them. Any suggestions on how they could set up a demo environment like that would be fine as well.
I think it's an open standard, so it's up to the suppliers or any of the service providers if they have a sandbox and you can get set up in it. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it's decentralized, right? So I don't know that there's anything to set up as far as the PromoStandards organization.
Yeah, not much that we can necessarily do, but I want to see if again if there was anything they might be able to try on their end.
There's two sides, right? So if you're a supplier who's interested in implementing PromoStandards, the sandbox is to use the validator. Build your first integration and run it up against the validator. You don't even need a partner to do that. Just if you're the supplier building, you can do that. If you're a distributor who's interested in going down this path, and I think you're right, Alex and Dustin, probably the best way to do this is to reach out to a supplier who you're interested in integrating with and talk to them about, do you have a test environment or a sandbox environment where we can the distributor can do their work and test that their side of that equation is working. I'm sure lots of suppliers have test environments that you can access. And so ideally you'd start with one you want to integrate with anyway, so that if the testing goes well, you just move it over to production. So find somebody you want to work with first and then collaborate with them on their test environment that they set up.
Great. All right. Anything else we want to add on that one? I believe we're good now. We've talked a good amount about, kind of startup and guides and things. So, pivoting off of that, we had a few questions regarding, getting support while you're doing this and figuring out. We've talked about this a little bit already, but, is there any place you'd recommend people go to when they're having, issues getting set up, or if they're just looking for general help, they've gotten stuck on something like a forum or a chat room or someplace they can speak to other people who are familiar?
Yeah, I would suggest that if you're a member of PromoStandards, so the standards are free to use. If you are, and I can't remember the levels, and I should know this because I'm a board member, but if you are a paying member of PromoStandards, you have access to Slack channels where you can pose questions, and there's different Slack channels for different affinity groups and even just a general. And you can use that to ask questions, and it's kind of crowdsourced on answering those questions. Also, if you're building it and you're integrating with a supplier, I'd suggest you develop a good relationship, your technical team with the supplier's technical team. So if you're running into any issues, it's a direct call. Hey, we're struggling getting this data out of you guys, or we're getting this and we don't know what it means, and can you provide some help? The benefit is when it's working for both sides, it makes life easier for both. So there's an investment made on both the distributor or third party supplier and the supplier to make things work. And so that's another good resource to try and get past problems. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jessica. Advisory, adopting, and associate.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. Anything associate and above should have access to those Slack channels. Pivoting off of that, we had one where people were asking if there was any way people could share practical tips from other teams who have implemented. I think that may be something we could look into putting on resource pages, like an FAQ or if you wanted to share, we did this and this worked great. Obviously, within what you're allowed to share about your own business, I think that's something we could definitely add I forget what the word I'm looking for is, but basically, again, an FAQ and then a brief tips from other users section. I don't think that would be a bad idea. Is that something we already have in the Slack as well?
I'm not aware of that in the Slack, because Slack's a little bit more transient.
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
like
a chat room.
Yeah, it'd be more along the lines of, is there a place, if you're suggesting like, hey, we figured out how to solve this problem, it's kind of adjacent to best practices. And so that's maybe something that we funnel to that group that's led by a gentleman named Ajay Kaul, for like, is there a way to provide that as another resource for people who are looking at problems, and it's like an FAQ that they can go look at and see if somebody else has solved the problem.
Great. Okay. And then obviously there are some key contacts on this call right now. People are asking if there's anybody, important that they need to be able to reach out to. Key contacts, internal resources. Again, we've talked a good amount about some of the resources on our page, as well as, again, best practice setup. But anybody who you're seeing that is volunteering with us is going to be a great contact if you have any questions or concerns, and if you're looking for help. If they're on the volunteer board, then they're totally willing to talk with you and do what they can, obviously within reason, to help you get things set up, get things moving, or help resolve any issues or questions you may have. So I hope that just the presence of the volunteers on this call has answered that question a bit. And then there was a question on if this will be recorded, which of course it will. We do record all of these office hours, and of course those are available on the website later, as well as some summary and notes of those, which you can go back over if you don't have a whole lot of free time to sit down and watch the entire thing. There we go. And I believe that was all of the questions that we had selected from the list, or at least that was all of the ones that I had received. Other than if we could, email it to specific people who were unable to attend today. We may have to go down the list and see who submitted those and send that over to them. Did we have any other questions? People who are currently listening wanted to pitch in?
Alex, there's a question in the chat. Are there any suppliers who pay PromoStandards for specific distributors to be able to pull in those suppliers' data, so the distributor doesn't have to pay if the supplier is willing to? I'll try and answer the question. Whoever asked it, if I get the question wrong, let me know. You don't have to pay for PromoStandards at all. I'm not aware of any supplier who is like paying for a distributor. If you're a distributor and you want to use PromoStandards, there's no requirement for you to pay anything. You have access to the spec, and then you implement it with a supplier. So I guess the specific answer to your question is no. I don't know of any suppliers who are paying for a specific distributor. I guess the other way that maybe that question is intended is, are there any suppliers who are helping pay distributors to build implementations? So I'll use an example. Like, I work at Sanmar, and there's this big distributor we work with, and we'd like them to integrate with us, but they're not willing to spend their own money. So would we pay for them to build an integration into us? So maybe that's the other way that question is intended. I'm not aware of those things. I can't speak for all suppliers. And if you are a distributor and you're struggling to kind of figure out how to pay for building the integrations, it's a conversation you can have with your supplier. Like I said, I'm not aware of any suppliers who are paying distributors to do integrations, but maybe somebody else on the call is.
Another question I get asked fairly regularly, which may dovetail into that previous question, is that sometimes if you are a customer of a supplier, or if you're paying a service provider a fee to do work for your particular business, sometimes they think that because they're paying a supplier or paying a service provider, that automatically gets them membership within PromoStandards, and that isn't the case. Each distributor or service provider or supplier would get their own membership into PromoStandards if they want that Slack access or be a volunteer or get involved in some of the committees. But no, if that's part of the question, each company holds their own membership.
Great.
There's another question about the rate limits. What are the typical rate limits for the API services? The rate limits are usually enforced by the service providers or the suppliers themselves, so there is not a typical rate limit. But you will get a warning message if you exceed one. So there's
or a nasty phone call. I remember that's exactly right. And that's again why I think it's important for you to have a conversation with the supplier. So we have run into situations where we do a connection with a distributor and they start hitting us with lots of product data calls and like thousands of them a day, and they're trying to get new product data. And we tell them, like, we don't update our product data that often. You don't have to pull that information that frequently. So as you're setting up the integration and having that conversation between them, understanding how often your supplier is actually updating the data so that you know, like, you can call every 5 minutes, but if they don't update that data but once an hour, then you're just wasting time. So there's no official regulation, but as Mehmet says, there's some best practices around it, and you will get a call from your supplier if you're hitting them too frequently for calls.
Definitely. I was sent a question, and it was on the distributor side. They said that adding logins and endpoints isn't always enough. Suppliers kind of structure data differently, especially pricing and part item details. So they said that can appear at varying array levels. I'm not entirely sure what the question was. More of a statement.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Definitely true.
Yes, that's true. That's why you can connect to, like, I'll use us as an example. I don't know much about SNS's integration, and if you integrate with us at Sanmar and then you integrate with SNS, I would still suggest having a conversation so you understand how each of us is using the arrays for product ID and those things, so that you're digesting the data the way you need to, even if we're supplying it in slightly different fashions.
And another note for membership benefit, which is even if you're a distributor and you're trying to reach out to some of these suppliers, and sometimes I'll use Sanmar as an example just because they are very good at getting back to people, and I've never had to reach out to Sanmar on anyone's behalf because they typically respond on their own. But if a supplier like Sanmar, you're trying to get that conversation going about PromoStandards and how to implement and work with them to get those things done, and maybe that your connection is not responding to you, if you contact us at PromoStandards and you are a member, we can help connect you with someone like a Mike Napick, who would be like, oh yeah, we'll get them connected. So that is another benefit of having a membership, even as a distributor, if you're having a hard time getting a hold of someone within the supplier world at your particular supplier to respond with it. Because not everyone you deal with within each supplier knows how to integrate all of this and the workings of PromoStandards. So sometimes it feels like you're hitting a wall, whereas we kind of help you connect you with who to talk to about these issues.
All right, and I think we're down to just one more question for now, which was if it's possible or how to obtain reports on which distributors are connected to specific suppliers. I don't know if we're allowed to disclose that.
I don't know that any such report exists. Part of it is it's the decentralized nature of PromoStandards. There's no like hub. So I can get a list of distributors that Sanmar is connected to, and SNS can get a list, and PCNA can get a list, and HIT can get but there's no place that we we consolidate that all down into a single list where you can go look at those. Part of that's, I think, well, I'm not sure how much suppliers would want to promote who they're integrated with and who they're not integrated with. Maybe that's why that list doesn't exist right now.
And yeah, again, you're certainly free to reach out to people on an individual basis, especially people who do integrate with PromoStandards who are listed on our website, who are proud of it. If you want to ask those questions, they may be willing to disclose some, but yeah, obviously that's going to be a matter of their own policy and their own comfort with disclosure. So great. Any other pressing questions here with anybody who's on the call?
By the way, I've just sent another link which shows every PromoStandard endpoint submitted to the PromoStandard website. So that might also help which suppliers has which endpoints, not necessarily the distributed connection.
That'll tell you all the suppliers and what services they offer, right? What versions of each of the standards that they offer. So at least you'll know who you could, like if you're a distributor considering, that will give you a good place to start. Which of my suppliers are on this list? Who do I want to work with first, second, third? Or I've done 5 of them. Who's number 6 on the list? Like that's a great place to start with that conversation.
Okay, I'm not hearing anything else, so I believe we're going to wrap this up. Thank you to everybody who joined us live, and of course everybody who's listening to this later. We really appreciate you guys showing up, throwing questions our way. No such thing as a bad question. We appreciate everybody who submits those going through, and hopefully helping you get familiar and helping you get more comfortable with implementing PromoStandards. We will be back next month for another virtual office hours. I believe it's going to be on the 12th. Can anybody check me on that? August 12th.
I'm trying to get there.
That will be the second Tuesday of August. So
it's actually the 19th. It's the third Tuesday. Yeah.
Okay. There we go. All right. So it'll be on the 19th. Of course, we will be posting about that on social media channels, and it'll be on our website. So you'll be able to go in to the forum, submit any new questions you have. Of course, if you are a member in the meantime, please don't wait for the next month meeting. Just go to the Slack and bug one of us there, and we'll be happy to help you out. I really appreciate everybody showing up, and I believe we are going to close this out. Again, if you have anything else last minute you want to throw in, we'll be hanging around for a couple more minutes, and we'll be happy to assist you.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Definitely appreciate your help, Mike. Very insightful answers on a lot of this. Definitely things that I'll be noting for the future, and hopefully making, again, accessible resources on the website, things people can access, so they don't even have to ask it of us here.
Hey, Mike, can I ask you a question?
Yeah. Hey, Dustin, there's a question in the chat that maybe you can answer. Sorry, who was talking?
Susan, Santa Monica.
Hey.
So we use SAMR, and we use decorators also. So I'm just curious how that gets integrated with pricing with the decorators and SAMR.
It doesn't.
It doesn't? Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't, Susan. So our integration is for blank products only.
Right.
So if, I wish I had a better answer for you right now, but if you're pulling pricing information and inventory information from SAMR, it's going to be blank goods.
Okay. So I was just wondering if we could integrate both the decorator and SAMR together somehow, but I guess not.
It is, well, yeah. I mean, we facilitate decoration through our PSST network, and we have had conversations about how we might help facilitate that piece, but it's just in the very beginning stages. So I wouldn't, if you asked me when, I would tell you I have no idea right now.
Okay.
All of our integration is for blank right now.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And the question in the chat from Ezra: do you have an expected completion date for the REST APIs? I'm not aware of a expected completion date at this point. It is in progress. We have begun development, but there's a lot of work to do on that. It's a big project.
Dustin, what's the how long, like from the time the standards committee says, hey, we're going to work on a new standard, whether it's a rev of, or like even moving, it's not like it's weeks, right? It takes, how long would you guess? Like what's the shortest path to a new or an updated?
All the standards that we've been working on since I came onto the committee have already been in progress. So I would say several months to, a year and a half.
It takes, yeah, thank you. I mean, part of our process is to ensure that, obviously one, it's all volunteers working on it. And then two, it requires some testing. So beta customers to work through it. And then it goes, if you're an advisory member, there's a period where we ask advisory members to look at the standard and provide feedback on it. So it can take a fair amount of time. So, and I think the question is related to like all the APIs moving to REST. And right now they're just starting to work on the first one, which is, I think you said product data, Dustin.
Yeah, it's a combination. So we started with product data, and it's less modular, and each one is less independent. So they're kind of rolling in. So product data, PPC, those are the ones we're working on right now.
Great. And I forgot to mention this earlier. Just want to bring this up so we can get it in the meeting notes. And it seems like a good amount of people are still here. We are hoping to have the updated new website, which I'm told has been in a bit of development hell for the last half a year. We're hoping to have that up early next week, as well as tickets for Tech Summit 2026 available. Again, that is subject to change, but currently with the pace things are moving at, we believe those will be available then. We are going back through the list of people who currently are, standardizing on PromoStandards, and there were a good few people on there, a good few companies that were on the pending, maybe they haven't renewed yet membership. So if you'd like to be listed on the website and you haven't renewed yet, please go and check on that. We'd love to, again, have you listed on our website boldly, proudly. So if that's something that interests you, please go check on your status. And again, keep an ear out, as that should be ready next week.
I have another question. You guys got a minute?
Yeah.
I'm not very much.
So we're really interested in getting started with PromoStandards. We have been for a while. We actually had a tech company start doing it, but there was issues that they had years ago, and now we're coming back into it. And I just kind of started at this company not long ago, so I really am pushing for it. But I went to a vendor that uses PromoStandards, and I asked them, kind of pretended like I had PromoStandards. I was like, give me all the information, just so I could see what a vendor would give me and get an idea of what it looked like. And they gave me a username and password. But I see on PromoStandards, like that list that you gave earlier in the link, there's no there's no username and password. So what would I actually use a username and password for that a vendor would give me?
So like a supplier gave you a username and password?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd use that to make the call into the endpoint. So.
Okay. So these links aren't actually going to the endpoints that you sent earlier, that list of.
Yeah, I believe it is. I haven't followed the link, but so I'll stop using SAMR as an example. I'll use HIT. Like HIT's got a set of endpoints. Each endpoint serves up a different API, a different standard, and you can use that login and password to make a call to that endpoint. You give it a login and password and the package, and then they'll respond back using the promo standard. So you have to build something on your side that makes the call and then receives the response back.
Okay. And then what is that key on that list for? That's just a request. Okay. I got you.
Yeah.
I did that.
There's one little thing that might be confusing. It's usually referred as ID and password in the documentation. So you won't find any username, but the ID field is intended for username.
Okay. So like if you click on the live, like say I'm going to use a vendor, I want to use their endpoint and I go to like 3M promotional. I click on that, what is it called? The view page or the WSDL. I click on one or the other, or what's the difference between view and, I'm sorry. I just don't know what this is.
Are you at the link that Mehmet sent out?
Yes.
Yeah, the view
Okay.
is just a detail page for that specific endpoint. You will see the live URL when you click into that, and if they have a sandbox URL, you will also see that. And once you click to live URL, that also will redirect you to the link that WSDL is. So by using that link, you can integrate and get the SOAP details. And if you have a SOAP UI or something similar, which will help you do the request, you will automatically get all the payloads.
So it's basically another way of getting to that green WSDL page. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. I was just curious about the difference between those two. I was like, well, it looks like they kind of go to the same place, but I wasn't sure. Okay.
Gotcha. And if there's anything you're having trouble navigating or anything that you think looks incorrect, and this is anybody in the meeting on that endpoints page, I do have a list of changes that are going to be made to that on the updated website. So please, if you spot anything that looks wrong or looks out of date, let us know, and we'll make sure that's corrected when that new site rolls out. Or if it's confusing, even we can definitely work on that.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All right. We've had silence for, the perfectly awkward amount of time, 15, 20 seconds. So I believe we're all good to go. Then volunteers, you guys are free to head out, as well as everybody else attending. And again, we hope to see you next month or just around in the Slack channel.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Yeah, FAQ page. I'm adding that to the list. I mean, we'll try to consolidate that with the best practices we can.
Thanks.